building. Hello again, it's me Chaz back with another video. This is another one that is way overdue, but this is my AFC third round match day 8 2026 World Cup qualifying review. That's a long title. Anyway, the biggest takeaway that we had from this match day was that Iran became the second nation in the AFC to qualify for the World Cup after their 2-2 draw with Uzbekistan. That was the fourth time that Iran and Uzbekistan met in the AFC qualifying, and this is the fourth time that they've drew with each other. Also in that group, North Korea was defeated by the UAE, and now they have been eliminated. North Korea will not be able to qualify for this World Cup. That's the action that took place in Group A. In Group B, big thing, Palestine versus Iraq. Palestine, with a last-minute winner, still kept their chances to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, at least reach into the fourth round spots and give them even more of a chance to qualify for this World Cup. And in Group C, a massive win for Indonesia against Bahrain. They defeated them 1-0, managing to put them in the fourth place spot, which is a chance for them to qualify for the World Cup, at least in the fourth round. They're only a few points off the second spot, which is a spot to qualify for the World Cup. Should point out that Indonesia are the first team from Asia to ever compete at the World Cup. They competed at the World Cup in 1938. Back then they were known as the Dutch East Indies. So yeah, a former colony of the Netherlands. Alright, so I will discuss the matches that I just mentioned and all the other matches that took place on match day 8 back in March this year. So I'm going to start with Group A. So in Group A, you have Iran, who has not been defeated during this World Cup qualifying campaign. They qualified for the last World Cup in 2022 in Qatar. Speaking of Qatar, the 2022 hosts, they are also in this group. Uzbekistan as well in this group, never qualified for the World Cup before, but they have a chance, very strong chance in this group. You have the UAE, who qualified for the World Cup the first and only time in 1990 in Italy. Kyrgyzstan as well was in this group, who have never qualified for a World Cup. And finally North Korea, who were the first Asian nation to make it out of the group stage of a World Cup back in 1966 in England. The top two teams in this group, Iran and Uzbekistan, played each other in Iran in the Azadi Stadium. Uzbekistan took the lead in this game across from Shea Thieves, wasn't dealt with. Then Erkanov finished it off for Uzbekistan. That's his second goal of this campaign. The last time he scored was against Hong Kong in their 3-0 win back in the second round. Uzbekistan needed 1-0 going into the second half. In the second half, Iran did get a goal back. Tyremi scored his 8th goal now in this campaign. Great assist from Azmoun, but that volley, absolute quality. So 1-1. Just a minute later though, Uzbekistan restored their lead. Faizuliev with a free kick that caught everybody out, caught the keeper and his teammates, as well as the Iran players caught everyone out. That's his 4th goal now for Uzbekistan during this qualifying campaign. Late on though, in the 83rd minute, Tyremi scored again for Iran, equalising the second time in this game. A bit of luck in the box, but he manages to equalise again for Iran. The match ended 2-2. Iran have now qualified for their 4th World Cup in a row and their 7th in their history. It's unfortunate for Uzbekistan they didn't get the win. However, they're still in a great position to qualify for their first World Cup. They are second in this table, as I mentioned earlier. Their next game is against UAE, who are third in the table if Uzbekistan avoid defeat, they will qualify for the World Cup. Iran are also travelling away. Their next game is against Qatar, but for Iran, they can relax in the next 2 games. Alright, let's move on. Let's talk about Qatar. They played Kyrgyzstan away and was defeated 3-1. Kyrgyzstan needed to win this game to give them a chance to at least finish in 4th, which is the final spot in the 4th round positions, which I mentioned is another chance for the nations that didn't finish in the top 2 to qualify for the World Cup 2026. A win for Qatar in this match would have still gave them a chance to qualify automatically for their 2nd World Cup. But with this defeat, the only way they can now qualify for the World Cup is through the 4th round, which they could still lose that spot to Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan took the lead at home, their first goal. Game late on, 2 minutes into extra time in the first half. Kichin scored with a free kick again that caught out everybody. And as mentioned, gave Kyrgyzstan the lead. 1-0 first half, Kyrgyzstan. Second half down. Afif takes a corner. Mendes scores the goal for Qatar to keep them in the game, 1-1. That's his 2nd goal for Qatar in this qualifying campaign. His first goal was that winner against Uzbekistan in that dramatic 3-2 game. Definitely a keeper out for this one, I would say that as well. Don't know what he's thinking. Anyway, a few minutes later though, Luka Mendes, who was the scorer of Qatar, got himself sent off high, showed the studs, poor challenge, straight red card off. Qatar still had their chances and still tried to get the winner. However, Mischenko for Kyrgyzstan, great strike, long range effort, made it 2-1 for Kyrgyzstan, and Shukurov finished off the scoring for Kyrgyzstan. Interesting enough, this is the 2nd time he scored against Qatar. The last time he scored, they were defeated 3-1 themselves back then. So the return leg, they gave it back to them, 3-1 win for Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, the red card definitely could have made a difference there in the game, but this was a great win and obviously a much needed win for Kyrgyzstan to give them still a fighting chance to qualify for the World Cup, at least in the 4th round. They are 4 points behind Qatar, which means Kyrgyzstan must win their next 2 games and hope Qatar drop points. After this defeat for Qatar, as I mentioned, they cannot finish 2nd, which is the final automatic spot to qualify for the World Cup in this round. A win from their next 2 games would be enough for them to hold on to that 4th spot. Qatar will go up against the group leaders Iran in their next game. Kyrgyzstan, on the other hand, will go against the bottom team who got eliminated, and that is North Korea. Let's move on to the last 2 teams in this group. That's North Korea and the UAE. I believe for security reasons, North Korea does not play any of their World Cup qualifying games at home. So this match took place in Saudi Arabia in Prince Faisal bin Haaz Stadium, which I believe will be one of the venues for the 2034 World Cup when Saudi Arabia will host. This match did finish in a 2-1 win for the United Arab Emirates. And as I mentioned earlier on this video, this match meant that North Korea cannot qualify for the 2026 World Cup. This game started off well for the UAE, 5 minutes in, Fabio Lima, who scored 4 goals against Qatar in one game earlier in this World Cup qualifying campaign. He opened up the scoring for UAE. Keeper did save it but spilled it, and Fabio just capitalised on it. Though late on in the first half, in the 43rd minute, Kim Yo-sung equalised for North Korea. Goal came from a corner, headed effort first, hits the bar, but Kim Yo-sung reacted first. Good equaliser for North Korea. The last game, he actually scored an own goal against Qatar, I believe, in the last match. So yeah, good redeemed himself a little bit. Late on in the game, 7 minutes into extra time, UAE found the winner. Abdullah crossed in late on, and Sultan Ali scored from the header. I think with his head bandaged up as well, scored that header, brilliant. Gave UAE the win and pretty much knocked North Korea out. The thing is, even if North Korea drew this game, they still would have not been knocked out. They needed to win. For the UAE, this gives them a chance. Now they're 4 points behind Uzbekistan. They will be going up against Uzbekistan next. And that's a must win for them. They need to win that game to still give them a chance to get that automatic spot in second to qualify for the World Cup in 2026. Because if they don't, then they'll be in a 4th round spot, and it still gives them a chance to qualify, but it'll be more games for them to play. North Korea, as I mentioned earlier, will take on Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is still fighting for their chance to finish in the 4th round spots. Alright, so we're going to have another little check at the Group A. So as you can see, Iran have now qualified for their 4th World Cup in a row, as I mentioned. Uzbekistan are second. They draw their next game against the UAE, who are 3rd. That would see them qualify for their first ever World Cup. As I mentioned, the UAE are currently 3rd, and they can still qualify for the World Cup in this round, but they must win their next 2 games, especially the game against Uzbekistan coming up. That said, even if they do win their next 2 matches, they're still not guaranteed to qualify for the World Cup in this round. 4th in the table is Qatar, who were the 2022 hosts. They cannot qualify for the World Cup in this round, and they can still be eliminated if they drop into the 5th spot, which Kyrgyzstan are currently holding. But Kyrgyzstan must win their next 2 games and hope that Qatar drop points for them to get to the 4th round spot. Alright, and finally in this group you have North Korea, who are now eliminated and cannot qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Alright, that was Group A. Now we will move on to the second group, Group B. Alright, so the nations in Group B. South Korea, who have competed at every World Cup since 1986 and on course to compete at their 11th World Cup, 10th in a row. Jordan, who have never competed at a World Cup before, this is a big chance for them. Iraq, who last competed at the World Cup in 1986. Oman, again another nation who have never competed at the World Cup, as well as Palestine, who also have never competed at the World Cup. And finally Kuwait, who has competed at one World Cup, that was back in 1982 in Spain. I'm going to start off with the game that I feel was the most important match, which was between Palestine and Iraq. Palestine was able to defeat Iraq late on to give themselves a fighting chance for a fourth round spot. So the game took place in Jordan in the Amman International Stadium. Okay, so in this game, Iraq did have the lead in the first half. Ibrahim Baish gave a great cross to Ayman Hussein, who got a header to it. 1-0 first half. Good goal for Iraq. A win for them would have put them back into the qualifying spot, second place, to get into the World Cup. But very late into the game, Palestine do equalise in the 88th minute. This came from the corners. Adam Kayed with the corner. Washim Abu Ali scores header. That makes it 1-0. And again, late on, again from a corner, Adam Kayed. Brilliant corner again. And once again, another header, this time from Mihagna scored. And that goal gives Palestine hope to qualify for their first World Cup. Historic win over Iraq for them. First time in their history that they've defeated Iraq, and gives them a chance, like I mentioned, to at least get into the fourth round to qualify in the fourth round for the 2026 World Cup. Big setback for Iraq. They lost to Palestine in this game. If they did win or even draw, they would have only been a point behind Jordan. A win would have put them back into second spot. Even a point would have actually secured Iraq's fourth round spot. But again, defeat hasn't done that. Big setback for them. Iraq, next game will be against South Korea. Iraq are at home, but a very tough match there. If they do win that game against South Korea, it will be spicy for the final match day, or match day 10, amongst the top three teams in this group. Another interesting fixture is Palestine. They will be going up against Kuwait in their next game on match day 9. That's the bottom two teams. That game's a must win for both teams. Both of them must win that match. Even a draw would more or less mean both nations won't qualify for the 2026 World Cup and will be completely eliminated with no chance of even competing in the fourth round. Right, I mentioned South Korea earlier. South Korea, they came up against Jordan, playing at home. The previous game between South Korea and Jordan, South Korea went away and beat Jordan 2-0. Game took place in a Suwon World Cup stadium. This same stadium had the round of 16 match between Spain and Ireland that ended in a 3-2 win for Spain on penalties. Good match that one was. Anyway, so this is the top two teams in Group B going up against each other. South Korea took the lead early on in that 5th minute. A corner from Son. Lee Jae-sung scores it close range. Nice goal. Good lead for them. That's now his 4th goal for South Korea in the World Cup qualifying. He also scored previously against Jordan in the last game in a 2-0 win. Jordan do equalise on the 30th minute. Mahmoud Mahdi took a shot and it took a wicked deflection of Kun Won, which beats the keeper and gives Jordan the equaliser. South Korea did have most of the chances and most of the possession in this game, but the game ended up in a 1-1 draw. With this, both South Korea and Jordan cannot be eliminated from this round and still could qualify for the World Cup outright. South Korea could qualify for another World Cup if they avoid defeat against Iraq. Jordan would have a little more work to do for themselves. Their next game is against Oman. Alright, and the last fixture in this group on match day 8. Kuwait played Oman at home and was defeated 1-0. Oman done a double over Kuwait in this group. They previously beat them 4-0 at home. Goalless first half. In the second half, Oman do take the lead, start leading this game. Al-Hati with a brilliant cross. To Sabi, great header. Very strong, very powerful. 1-0 to Oman over Kuwait. Game ends there, and with that win for Oman, they put themselves 4 points clear of Palestine and 5 points clear of Kuwait. A win for them in their next game against Jordan would secure them a 4th round spot, but even better if they do end up beating Jordan, that puts them in a great position on the final match day 10, to get a chance to qualify for the World Cup outright by finishing in one of the top 2 spots. Massive setback for Kuwait, especially after their draw against Iraq earlier in the month, back in match day 7 where they drew late on, and then now losing, they dropped quite a lot of points there. They would have been level points with Oman and only a point behind Iraq if it went their way. They are up against Palestine next though. Again, must win for both teams. Even if Kuwait was to win their next 2 games, there's still not a guaranteed chance that they will get a 4th round spot. Alright then, let's move on to the final group. That is Group C. Personally my favourite group so far, but yeah, let's go. So, Group C has Japan, who have qualified for every World Cup since 1998. Also co-hosted the 2002 World Cup with South Korea. And were the first team from the AFC to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Actually, outside of the host nations, they're the first ones to qualify. We also have Australia in this group, who have themselves qualified for every World Cup since 2006. And the first nation to get any points from Japan during these World Cup qualifiers. Saudi Arabia are also in the group. They will host the 2034 World Cup. As well as Indonesia, the very first nation from Asia to ever qualify for a World Cup. They qualified and competed in the 1938 World Cup. We also have Bahrain, who are the only team in this group to never compete at a World Cup. And finally, China, who competed in the World Cup for the first time in 2002, but haven't competed at a World Cup since. We're going to start off with a game between Indonesia and Bahrain. Well, Indonesia defeated Bahrain 1-0 at home at the Gelora Bung Karno Stadium. Alright. In the previous match between both Bahrain and Indonesia, where Bahrain was at home, very big controversial issue there. Way too many extra time was played and Bahrain was able to score late on, equalising for them. Less drama in this game. Robani scores for Indonesia in the 24th minute, which was the only goal in this game. He did score prior for Indonesia. He scored in their loss to Australia in a 5-1 loss. So this time his goal wasn't a consolation, it was a winning goal for them. With this win for them, they're now 3 points clear of Bahrain and China, which puts them in 4th and in a 4th round spot. They are also 4 points behind Australia, who are currently second in the World Cup qualifying spot. Indonesia do play China next, and if they do win that game, they would eliminate China out of the chances of qualifying for this World Cup, and will put them in a great position to hold on to their 4th place spot or the 4th round spot, and again gives them a chance to qualify in 2nd place. Bahrain themselves have a must-win game against Saudi Arabia. Failure to win that game could stop their chances for qualifying for their first ever World Cup. Alright, let's move on to the next game between Japan and Saudi Arabia. That ended up in a 0-0 draw. Japan, they already qualified, wasn't a big game for them. For Saudi Arabia, this was, they needed a win. They did get a point against Japan. Again, Japan's been so strong. And that in the previous game, Japan did beat Saudi Arabia at their grounds, at Saudi Arabia's grounds. That was a 2-0 win earlier. This game took place in the Santander Stadium, 2002 World Cup, in the past. Back in 2002, Japan did play Belgium in their opening game in this stadium. That game finished in a 2-2 draw. So I mentioned no goals in this game. Japan again qualified and guaranteed to finish first in this group. They've been so far ahead of all the other teams in their group, in both groups in their group. Back in round 2, they was so better than all of the teams, and again in this case they are as well. This is their second time they drew a game, so second time they dropped points, but it doesn't matter, they qualified. Japan's next game is against Australia, and I guess Saudi Arabia will be hoping Japan could do them a favour against Australia. For Saudi Arabia, they do go up against Bahrain, and there's a chance that Saudi Arabia could stop Bahrain's World Cup qualifying hopes, and also gives them a great opportunity to try and qualify themselves in the second place position. Alright, just finish off with the match between Australia and China. The previous game between Australia and China finished in a 3-1 win for Australia. And this time around, Australia did it again. Australia defeated China, doing a double over them, beat them 2-0 this time away from home in the Hangzhou Olympic Stadium. Yeah, I think I said that right. Okay, so Jackson Irvine for Australia gave them the lead. Took a shot first, denied, but he continued going, took another shot and scored. Second goal, Felipe took a good shot, good strike, but poor keeping. Keeper couldn't deal with the shot and went in. That's 2-0 for Australia. No more goals scored in this game. And after a bad start, their first 2 games where they lost to Bahrain and drew to Indonesia, Australia's managed to turn it around, haven't lost a game since. First team to deny Japan a win as well. They're in a good position to qualify for another World Cup. They are currently second, as mentioned, 3 points clear of Saudi Arabia. China, on the other hand, are still bottom of this group. However, they are still only 3 points off a 4th round spot. They do go up against Indonesia, which is a big game for both teams, must win for both. China win that game and they put themselves in a very good position on the final match day to qualify. To reach at least the 4th round spot and have another chance to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Australia, on the other hand, they go up against Japan. A win there. They somehow managed to beat the team that's been unbeaten. One of only 3 teams in the AFC to remain unbeaten at the World Cup qualifiers. If they somehow manage to beat Japan, they will qualify for another World Cup Australia. Alright then, let's have another quick look at the tables before I go. This has been another long video, I know, but thank you if you did manage to stick around. I do appreciate it as usual. So, Group A, Iran, mentioned, qualified for the World Cup. Uzbekistan are just 1 win away from qualifying for their first World Cup. UAE and Qatar there. UAE still have a chance to qualify outright. Qatar can't qualify in this round. You've got Kyrgyzstan that could still get into the 4th round spot, and North Korea, who have been eliminated. Alright, moving on to Group B, South Korea again themselves another win away for qualifying for this World Cup. Jordan, second in the group. on course to qualify for their first ever World Cup. Have Iran, haven't been in the World Cup since 1986, as I mentioned previously. Oman in the 4th round spot still have a chance to qualify outright themselves. Palestine and Kuwait, 5th and 6th, both can't qualify in this round, but both have a chance to get into the 4th round. And finally, Group C, Japan have qualified for another World Cup. Have Australia second, themselves are a win away from qualifying for another World Cup themselves. Saudi Arabia 3 points behind Australia. Got Indonesia that are close to securing a 4th round spot and can still qualify in this round. And in 5th and 6th, Bahrain and China both can't qualify from this round, but can get into the 4th round. Alright, thanks for watching, listen, appreciate it as usual. Thanks again. Sorry for the late video, but I finally been able to put it out. Thanks again, and bye.